when I talk to homeowners, the first thing I go into the conversation in the back of my head, my job is just to serve them and to solve a problem. You want to listen more than you talk. 80% of the time, listen, 20% of the time, you talk. When it comes to wholesaling, think about the fee last. If you solve the problem and you're able to provide a solution for that homeowner, you're going to be compensated. It's biblical. We're here to serve people. And if we serve, we'll get it in return. So you got to listen more than you talk, and you got to have the mindset that you're here to serve people, and you will make money in this business.
Shamus, thank you for joining me for our Thought Leader Spotlight series. I'm your host over here, Matt Camp, head of partnerships at DealMachine. And on these, we really like to shine an industry spotlight on experts like yourself, really hear your inspiring stories and see how you see the world evolving. So today, really excited to welcome on Shamus Goss. You've been an entrepreneur for over 3 decades. You've built 3 different businesses and been involved in 3 different industries. Like, you've got a ton of different backgrounds that you can talk about how they apply to wholesaling and to real estate, and excited to dig into all that, man. I know you got started in the music industry at age 17 and managed an independent record label for a decade. You built an athletic apparel company to 7 figures, and you've been in real estate the last 20 years too. So I'm excited to dig in. Welcome on, Shamus.
Thank you, Matt, for having me. It's always a privilege with DealMachine. I appreciate that. And that was a great intro. Thank you.
Thank you. You've done a lot, man. It's going to be fun to talk to you. So tell me more on the real estate side. Like, can you tell me? I mean, you've done quite a bit in terms of background. That real estate journey. Talk about how you got into real estate investing. Like, what made you shift into that? Like, love to hear that story.
Okay, so when I first moved down to Atlanta from New York, I went to school for construction management because I was like, I want to build houses. I only did 6 months because I was like, man, I don't want to swing no damn hammer. But I should have stayed in school just to understand the process of building a house from the ground up, because 20 years later, I'm building houses from the ground up. I would have been 20 years ahead. So that was like my first shot. Then I kind of got sidetracked and got into the athletic apparel business. We had a factory in the Philippines. We was purchasing from China. We took that company to 7 figures. And while I was running that company, I said, you know what? Let me go get my real estate license. Went there, realized quickly that it wasn't for me. The book is like this. It's basically like going back to law school, and you got to take the test in front of a camera, being interrogated. I'm from the Bronx. I don't like to be interrogated. It doesn't work for us. So I kind of just tapped out. I was like, nah, that's not for me. And then when I closed my my athletic apparel company down, that's when I got into the real estate. We bought our first piece of land. It was 5 acres. We bought a house, started renovating it. Got bad contractors, was a disaster. It was a disaster. A $20,000 job was at 60, 70. I'm like, man, I didn't sign up for this. Yeah. And then finally, I got under some mentors about 4 or 5 years ago, and they taught me a lot. It wasn't the best situation for me. Let's just say I didn't get paid what I was supposed to get paid, but I was just happy just to be there, to be learning, to be flipping projects. I think that year we did like 10 rehabs, which was great for me because I came in with the understanding of how much it costs to renovate a property. So that helped me on the wholesaling side. And then I kind of just went off on my own. I veered into another industry, then came back again, and I've put my foot on the gas, and it's been like that ever since.
Love it, man. I mean, I know you talk about sounded like getting a mentor was a big unlock for you and helped you kind of get to that next level. Can you talk through that for newbies, especially that are listening to this? Like, why should they be trying to get a mentor? How can that help them? How should they approach that? Any advice there?
Yeah, I definitely say to anybody out there that's trying to get started, if you could afford to get a mentor, get one, because they're going to cut your learning curve. Of course, you have to do your due diligence and make sure that the mentor is still in the industry, still doing deals and stuff like that. And if you get the right mentor, like I said, something that could take you 3 years to learn by yourself can take you 6 months because you have a mentor. I know with my mentees, like, I have a hand on everything that they're doing. I'm staying on top of them. And because from my view, when somebody hires you as a mentor, I think it's your obligation to get them proof of concept. Now, of course, if they're not making the calls and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, of course you can't make your money. But if somebody's on the phone every day and I'm seeing they're showing me call logs, hey, I'm Shamus, I'm down like eight hours a day. I've been doing this for 3 months, 6 months. I'll do the initiative to help them get that first deal so they could get that first check. Yeah, but mentor is it's a cheat code.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a common piece of advice we hear on here as well. But can you maybe talk through, I know you had such an interesting background within all these different industries. I'd love to kind of break down a couple of those things. So like the music space specifically, like you went on to own a record label, like really get involved there. Can you talk through any lessons you learned through that whole experience that you still carry with you today in the real estate side that really prepared you for success there, you think?
Yeah, it was a lot of similarities. The main thing I learned in with the record company is I either win or I learn. There's no losing, right? Most people think that they invest money, if they don't get their money back, they lose. But I learned from it. Definitely just professionalism, being professional, how to run a company. I see people now too, they're starting their company and they're sending out emails and everything. They got a Gmail account. They don't even have like info at DealMachine. That's the first thing I look at. All right, does he even have a company email? Does this person even know what they're doing? So professionalism, how to structure a company, and then marketing, because the music industry is all about marketing. It's all about sales and marketing. It's a pay to play game. And when you come into the wholesaling space, it's a pay to play game. The more money you can spend on marketing, the more leads you got that come in, the more deals you can do. So I definitely took a lot of things from the music industry. When I went into the athletic apparel, I learned a lot about manufacturing and resourcing and logistics and stuff like that. So it's a lot of similarities from every industry that helped me when I came into the wholesaling space to just move at a faster pace.
Love it. One thing, I mean, looking at your bio and like knowing your background and stuff, you got involved so early in entrepreneurship. Like you were so young to like really take that step. I know there's plenty of people listening to this who are probably on the younger side, like thinking about real estate, thinking about side hustles, thinking about like something else to get into, something to try, and be inspired by this. What are ways that you can use your youth to your advantage? Like, do you have any thoughts of like, hey, being young in this space, is there anything any advice you have for people that are looking at this as something that really can kick off their career?
Yeah, for sure. What I'll do is I'll take you back to my first start of entrepreneurship. 17, I was already 9 years in on
There we
entrepreneurship,
go. Love that.
right? So in the South Bronx, where I live, is 36 apartments in the building, right? Half of the apartments was drug spots, right? So what I would do is, if you came out of my building, we had a corner store. It was Anna's store. It was on the same block. So what I would do is I would knock on the doors and I would tell the hustlers, like, hey, if you need something from the store, I'll go for you, but it's going to cost you 50 cents or a dollar, because if you leave, then you're going to lose your customer. And I took a bunch of them down to the corner store and said, hey, if I come in here to buy beer or cigarettes or Dutchess or whatever, it's not for me. I'm only 9. It's for these guys. And that was my first form of entrepreneurship. And then I used to take that money, get up before everybody in school, cross the street, because once the whistle blows, the crossing guard would not let you cross. I would get up, cross the street, go down to Anna's store. I'm going to date my age right now. Penny candies. My mom would give me a dollar or two. I would take it to the store, buy 100 candies, 200 candies, because I knew at lunchtime that sugar rush was going to hit in elementary, and these was 5 cents. So that was my first form of entrepreneurship, and that really put the bug in me to actually stay in the entrepreneur space, because I could count on one hand the jobs that I had, and none of them last longer than 60 days. I was the worst employee. I was telling the bosses how they should structure their accounting, how they should do this, how they could make more money. So it didn't say good. I'm the worst employee. But I would say start. The thing about it is, when you start early, and one of the programs we got in our nonprofit is helping young entrepreneurs from 8 to 16. Once you have that in you, it's hard to go get a 9 to 5. It's almost impossible, right? So I would say definitely start early. There's no excuses. No, you don't need to get your working papers or whatever. Nowadays with the internet, go buy some hats, sell hats, Man, if I would have had what I had now, access to the internet and stuff like that at 9, I probably would be making $500,000 a year at 9 years old because I was selling all type of things, running to stores and stuff like that. You know, that was my,
You,
and think about it, $1 back then is like $20 now.
right. Yeah. I mean, you were the original Instacart, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Going,
being
go
lying.
down the street,
Yeah,
getting stuff, bring it back.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
that's awesome. Can you talk about your nonprofit too? That I love the mission of that.
Yes. So the name of the nonprofit is the Help Foundation. And basically what we do is we feed homeless people in the city of Atlanta and we do like book drives and everything. But we have an entrepreneurship program for kids from the ages of 8 to 16. So let's just say they submit an idea to us. They have to give us like a 2 or 3 page business plan. Just basically break it down their thoughts. I kind of want to see their mindset and everything to see, because you could tell from a very early age if this kid is an entrepreneur or not. And let's say they want to sell hats. We'll go out, buy them their first 100 hats, get a website set up for them, set up their little Facebook ads, give them a couple of $100 to run some Facebook ads and everything, set up their payment processing, and then just push them out. And the thing with that is, now I'm not saying that everybody that does that is going to wind up on the Forbes list, but at a very early age, we will be instilling
Yeah.
entrepreneurship in
that
a
bug.
kid. Yeah, exactly.
Love that, man. That's awesome. One thing, I mean, across all of the roles, I mean, from that early of an age beyond, it seems like you were always really interested on like the sales side and how do you close deals, how you build relationships, and that's translated extremely well into the real estate space for you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you maybe talk through like mindset on how to go into conversations with sellers and your approach to sales and how to really build trust with people?
Yeah, definitely. So when I talk to homeowners, the first thing I go into the conversation in the back of my head, my job is just to serve them and to solve a problem. That's the first thing, right? You want to listen more than you talk. 80% of the time listen, 20% of the time you talk. So I kind of, I'll do an intro to them. I'll get them to start talking about the house, and then I know what questions to ask, Socratic questions where I could pull more pain and everything. But the main thing is, when it comes to wholesaling, think about the fee last. And it's hard because every phone call I'm on, I'm like, oh, that's another 20K, that's another 20K, that's another 20K. So it's hard to do that when you're first starting. But if you solve the problem and you're able to provide a solution for that homeowner, you're going to be compensated. It's biblical. We're here to serve people. And if we serve, we'll get it in return. So I definitely listen more than I talk. And then I also, I make sure that I have the right person on the phone, all the correct decision makers are there. And then what I do is I give them several options. I'll give them several options. I don't never just go in and give them a cash offer. I give them a cash offer. Then I'll pitch them on creative finance. I'll pitch them on, we call it our concierge service, which is basically a novation or a sub two deal. But it's definitely, you got to listen more than you talk, and you got to have the mindset that you're here to serve people, and you will make money in this business.
Yeah, I love that mindset, man. When you're presenting them with options like that, what would you say is the breakdown of how often they go with a different option than than your first presentation on the wholesale deal side?
So what we do is we give them a low cash offer, and lately what we've been doing is pushing everything to MLS, right? That's what we do. So what I do is I give them a low ball cash offer that if they accept it, I'm like, oh my God, they accepted it. This is a home run, right? I'm shocked because sometimes they're like, okay, I'll take it. I'm like, damn, I could have went lower. But I get them to, I give them that number, and then let's just say they want 100,000 and I'm at 70K or 60K, right? The way I pitch it to them is I say, hey, listen, Mr. Seller, I know you're at 100 and we're at 70. In order for me to get you the 100, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to list this property on the MLS, which is basically our concierge service. What that means is we partner with a bunch of investors across the country, and it's our obligation to kind of share our inventory with them. And some of these investors are able to purchase at a higher price point because they're holding it for long term or Section 8 or something like that. And they think about it, and a lot of them go with that. And what's good about that is I don't get kickback from listing on the MLS. Like last week we blasted 3 properties out to our cash buyers list, got no offers, listed all 3 on MLS. 48 hours under contract. We already closed on them. We closed on one in like 4 days, the other in 5 days, and the other one was like a week.
Wow.
So the MLS is the way to go. You just have to be completely transparent in our purchase and sale agreement. It says that we have the right to list the property on MLS. And I mentioned this in the conversation. I tell them, hey, you're going to see the property listed. Now, you got to be careful because if you got a home run deal and it's a 50K or 100K spread, if you don't want to go into contract for 100,000 and list their property for 200,000, where they're going to see that, you're probably going to want to either take that down or double close on it, put the buyer in place. And if you have that much of a spread, you should be able to find a cash buyer without going to MLS. MLS is more when you have novation and newer homes and you got maybe a 40, 50, $60,000 margin where you could squeeze your fee in. And some people do it different. But I definitely say like the novation route, you just want to be careful with your spread. Because I know if you tell me you're going to give me 100,000 for the contract for my property, and I see this property listed for 200,000 and it's for sale, like you didn't purchase it from me, you got to give me more money, or I'll list it myself. So you definitely got to be careful on those lines that you cross with the homeowners, and just be completely transparent with them.
Yeah, I think transparency is the key to all that. Absolutely. Do you? I know you said earlier, hey, you're talking 20% of the time, you're listing 80% of the time. What are some of those really key discovery questions that are open ended that you really get people talking, that you can ask them to kind of open up that conversation?
So when I get a homeowner and they tell me a problem, let's just say, hey, it's like, yeah, we're in foreclosure. I always ask them, I say, foreclosure, can you tell me a little bit more about it? So whatever pain they present to me on the phone call, I'm going to ask them, hey, if they're like, hey, my property is in tax default. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? Because what you want them to do is you want them to keep talking about their problem. So when you have a solution and say, hey, well, this actually is perfect. We work mostly with individuals that their property is going into tax default. You want to make yourself sound like an expert. If they're in pre-foreclosures, well, we're actually an expert at pre-foreclosures. If they're in probate, we're actually an expert at probate. But definitely whatever pain they present, you want to pull it back out of them. You definitely want to, you don't want to use words like why. Like I don't ask them why you're looking to sell. I ask them what got you looking to sell, because they'll give you a little bit more information about it. And then, you want to make sure you ask the correct questions when it comes to all the decision makers on the phone. You want to make sure, hey, Matt, I don't want to offend you, but is there anybody else that would be offended if you sold this house? And they'll be like, well, I have to, actually my wife. And I'm, well, great. Well, when can we get her on the call? Because I don't want to step on nobody's toes. So just being careful that you have the right person on the phone. Keep your emotions out of it. I sold houses to people that cursed me out on the first phone call, and I still bought the house from them, because I don't, and at first I wasn't like that. You curse me out, I'm going to hang up on you. Right now, I'm like, I get it. They're in a tough situation, whether it's a pre-foreclosure or probate. Most individuals are only going to sell 1 or 2 houses in their lifetime. And this is the biggest asset. I will also say when it comes to sales, it's completely different if I'm trying to sell you this water compared to the skill set you need to get somebody to sell you their biggest asset. And I had to learn that because t-shirts, uniforms, $1,000 orders, 40, 30, 40, $50,000 orders. It's a product. You're handing them some uniforms, but an asset, you have to learn to listen more. You have to learn to dig out all of you want to probe and pull out as much information as possible. And plus I got my practitioner's license in NLP. So I can actually persuade the conversation to go in. It's kind of unfair because it's like you're coming in with your kids and you'd be like, hey, you want those sneakers in the mall? Yeah, Dad, great. Then later on the day, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you cut the grass? They're going to cut the grass because they want the sneakers, right? So I use NLP all the time. My wife was like, you don't use that on me. I know what you're doing and everything. But definitely invest in your skill set, your sales training, and things of that, because that's going to get you to close more deals. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And then I know the marketing side's another thing you brought up earlier too, of saying like, hey, this is a marketing game. Is same with the music industry too. I know you're very big on talking about building your personal brand for real estate. Can you maybe talk through why that's worth your time and where do you start for
Yeah.
building a personal brand?
Yeah, definitely. So since I came from the music industry, my entire career at 17 years old, everything I did, it was about I had to build my brand. It was in the music industry. I had to build my brand as a rapper. So so we had to go to radio stations, do videos, shows, pictures, interviews, and everything. The best thing that you can invest in is yourself and your brand. And I actually was sitting down with Damon John one day, and I was telling him, what's the key things, or what's the advice you would give me. He said, build your personal brand, because I could go from wholesaling to selling water, and if I have my name, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference, right? I get deals from people inboxing me. I get speaking engagements, everything, because they go online and you Google me, and you're going to see ads. You're going to go to my website. You're going to see a bunch of, publications on me. And I think that's important, because that helps you elevate your stock. It elevates your stock, So it's definitely important to invest in your brand. Let people know who you are. Because I started my journey on building my brand in the wholesale space probably around a year and a half, 2 years. I would say 2019 is when I kind of went to my first event, and I started getting, in the rooms with the people that were moving the needle in the industry. And it's funny now, because I look back now and these guys are on speed dial. We're having dinner together. We're going to each other's house. It's crazy, but that brand, it definitely helps you, first of all, put the image out there and let people know what it is that you do. But the best investment you can make is in building a brand.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're a fan of the stuff you put out as well. And like, that's how we, reached out to you and said, hey, I'd love to have you on here too, man. So it clearly works. But can you talk through, I mean, for building that personal brand too, in terms of the types of content you should be putting out, where to distribute it? Can you maybe give a little bit of a crash course there?
Yeah. So if you look on my page, if you go on Instagram, you're going to see 3 different topics. You're going to see real estate, which is mostly what I talk about, real estate. You're also going to see traveling. I love to travel. So when I go on trips, I put that on it. And then you're going to see motivational stuff, because I want to inspire people. So when it comes to the branding, I would say to choose 3 topics that you want to be known for, and then kind of have your page, reflect that. And then also too, you have to make sure that you post. Like when I post, I'll post on Instagram, I'll post on TikTok, I'll post on YouTube Shorts, on Twitter, on Facebook. I'll post all together. When it comes to Instagram and TikTok, it's going to be more video content that you want to put out there. Video too for Twitter, but Twitter is mostly for text and everything. When it comes to YouTube Shorts, that's only video. And then Facebook, you could do video and just text post. But I post every day. I would say if you're looking to build that brand and in social media, give yourself 30 days. So what I did when I first got in it, I took 30 days and I recorded like 30 days worth of content so I can be a month ahead. And then I would start posting, because when you try to record a video on Tuesday that has to be out on Thursday, you know how that goes. Thursday morning, right before you edit, before you post it, you're still editing. And while it's playing, you're like, oh, I forgot this in there. I should have edited that out. So I tell them, get a month ahead. Go ahead and post 30 videos. If you can post every single day, definitely post on your stories as well, because the stories get, a little more traffic and everything. And you got to understand that Instagram is a pay-to-play platform. So usually what I do when I push reels out there, I'll put $10 behind each reel or $20 behind each reel, just so it could get out there, because you could post it, but that doesn't mean Instagram is going to show it to anybody, right? They're a marketing platform, and they want you to spend money on ads. That's what they want you to do, so.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Facebook, same way, same way. A lot of those, that's their business model. Awesome, man. Well, so one last thing I wanted to make sure I ask you about too. I know You are great at talking about, kind of the self-care, personal balance piece about, piece of life and how you approach things. I know we have a ton of people who are out there that are hustling and grinding, and I'm, obviously you're an advocate of working hard too, but can you maybe give people advice there on, how to take care of yourself, through all this hustle and grind too?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because I think that that's probably the biggest problem that entrepreneurs have is that we go and we go until we crash. We go and we go until we crash, and then we get burnt out and we don't want to do it no more. It happened to me 2 times. I shut down a 7-figure company because I was burnt out. I was like, I don't want to do this no more. Right.
Mm-hmm.
For me, when I get up in the morning, I usually get up between 3:30 and 4:30 in the morning. My first hour of the day, I spend praying. I spend time with the Father. I pray, I meditate, and then I visualize. Right, I'll sit in front of my vision board, and on my vision board, I'll have whatever trips I want, any big goals that I have, cars that I want. That gives me the strength to go throughout the day with everything that gets thrown at me and to keep me calm. Like my blood pressure, I used to have high blood pressure. My blood pressure went down, right? All from the meditation. So, I do that every morning. I got to start before I even walk my dogs. I got to go in my room and I need the first hour for me. That gives me the strength for you to throw a rock at me and me get hit in the head and just brush it off, like it's no problem. I move on to the next. Then we do a lot, like I do cryotherapy. Me and my wife, we do cryotherapy. Right. I go to the gym every day. For those that don't know what cryotherapy is, a lot of the big athletes use it, Steph Curry and all them. You get in a freezer at negative 165 degrees and you freeze for 3 minutes. But what the cryo does is it gets rid of all the inflammation in your body. So if you're having back pains and stuff like that, that would help you. We go to the chiropractor consistently every week. We do IV drips. We do IV drips every month to replenish the vitamins. So those are just some of the things, massages. But you have to do those things to balance out the stress in your life, right? Because if you get up and go to work and you're running your business and for 2 weeks straight, you don't take a break, you're going to crash. You're going to crash. Over time, you're going to crash. So the best thing that I did was uh, previously, I would say, this is my business and everything I like around the extra time that I have, that's what I do. Now, everything that means a lot to me for the self-care, I put first and then the business goes around it. And that was the best decision that
Yeah.
I ever made, right? It was the best decision I ever made because I can deal with things without getting emotional and I could deal with so much more. So I would say to try to find the things that could keep you calm and the things that make you happy. And I'm not talking about every Friday you got to take a vacation for 3 days because you love going to Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic. No, I'm saying just little things that you can do. Whether it's going to a movie or find somewhere that's nature that you could go just sit out in the open and stuff like that. But if you focus on yourself, you'll be able to deal with more when it comes to the stress and anxiety from business.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate you putting us in the right mindset there too. I mean, both on the personal side and then even, how to think through teaming up with other people and building relationships and helping people out. Like this has been phenomenal, man. So thank you so much for the time today, Shamus. What's the best way for people to connect with you? I know you have your Wholesaling Academy. We'll link to all of that. Can you maybe talk through the best way for people to find you?
Yeah, you could. The best way to find me is on Instagram. Is Shamus Shamus Goss. That's on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. I got the Wholesaling with Shamus Academy that we just launched. I'm excited about that because I'm giving so much value, and the community that we're building. I already have mentees and everything that's doing deals and stuff like that. So it's really good just to see that growth. But what's also good is to see where I started and how I boxed everything up. And I'm just giving them the blueprint, right? I want to see people win. I don't want to be the only one driving a Rolls Royce. I want everybody on the team to drive a Rolls Royce. So we all got to chase after that. So that's how you can follow me.
Love it, man. Awesome. Well, we'll link to that below. I know we'll also have a how to scale your real estate business ebook that we'll link there too. But really appreciate the time today again.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And to everyone watching, is Matt Camp over here with DealMachine, and happy deal finding.